So the day after you return to the Albridge estate with the others, Jacob, Ian, and Lance, you wake up the morning after. Of all your comrades, you're the only one that is uninjured. And as such, you wake up fairly refreshed and feeling well, besides what's on your mind, right? Miranda and John have put you back into your guest room that you had been in the previous night. This one, thankfully, you wake up and there's no screaming or people invading the manor. When you wake up, you notice it's around 7 o'clock in the morning, and the sun is just peeking through the windows. You had forgotten to pull the blinds or draw the shades the night before, so the sun wakes you up in the morning, glinting off the snow outside. And as you leave your room, you smell, things like something is cooking in the kitchen, and your room is not far from the kitchen, and you happen to see Miranda in a robe over a stove just kind of cooking what it looks to be like eggs. And she looks up at you and smiles and waves you over. I hope you slept well.
And, she's basically came in her uniform, or she's still in her uniform from before, so it's all kind of rumpled, and, she looks a little disheveled, but otherwise she's just like, she just kind of holds up one finger, and she's like, the only thing she says is coffee.
And of course, dear. Would you like a macchiato? Would you like a shot of espresso? And she waves over this humongous fancy coffee maker.
And she just kind of looks at it. She's like, whatever it is, I want 10 pounds of caffeine in it.
So she makes you an espresso with a double shot, and in a few minutes she brings it over and hands you just a kind of a regular-ish mug. She says, I think everyone else is sleeping. I've had the doctor here checking on them.
And she just kind of rubs sleepily at her eyes as she's kind of nursing her cup of coffee, and then she's just like, yeah, they got hit up pretty bad. Some of them were downright stupid in the way how they wanted to go at it, but at least they're all right, especially Jacob.
Yes, Jacob, I heard what happened. I feel very remorseful that he had to take another person's life, but I suppose it won't be the last time. Not in this line of work.
She just kind of stares at her coffee for a moment. She's like, we were out of our element. This isn't normal.
And she says, oh, I most certainly agree on both measures. Not normal, and certainly you were out of your element. Most people would be.
And she just takes another sip, and she's like, after food and coffee, I think you and I should have a talk.
What would you like to talk about, dear? We're the only ones up. And she kind of flips the omelet over that she's making, and she's like, this is too big for me. How about you split it with me, dear?
She kind of gives a small smile. Sure. But she takes another sip, and she's like, I understand that you were only able to tell as much as we were ready for, and everybody was pretty banged up last night, either emotionally or physically, and I appreciate that you were trying your best, but you need to come clean with me a little bit more. There's something you're not telling us, or at least something you're not telling me.
I don't really know what you mean. There are many things that I know that you do not, and that you should not, but I will begin to tell you about the things that are going on around you and in Glenwood Springs specifically, and mostly to what the High Mountain Lodge deals with. But right now, you and yours need to heal and rest, and then I will present you with several things that you might wish to consider if this is the life you actually want.
And she kind of frowns at her coffee and she's like, I know you don't know me. I'm new around here. But I can't just sit around and wait. I've got to start doing something, and I've got to prepare myself. And you're into something more than just this hunter stuff. I don't know what it is, but things aren't completely lining up for me.
Oh, my dear, whatever do you mean? I do not know what I can say. I have skills that I've learned through the lodge, as does John. I can play with some trinkets here and there and get them to work. Don't know much other than that. I can defend myself, I suppose, if I have to, but that is not my primary goal.
And Barb just kind of rubs her face and gives her a tired look, big bags under her eyes, even though she's about as rested as she's gonna get. And she's like, I need to know all of it. I didn't become a cop by just watching TV. I spent hours learning. I pick up everything that I learn instantly. It's, as you can tell, I don't leave any stone unturned. So whatever you know, I want to know it. Everything. I don't care how insignificant it might seem at the moment. I mean, I don't know. This seems like something that a bunch of nerds would be playing Dungeons and Dragons around a table, but I mean, I've already seen shit that doesn't make sense. It's cheap horror at its best.
It is horror. I will grant you that. In much larger ways than you know. I don't know what I can tell you exactly, Barb. I don't think you would quite understand it if I told you the theory of quantum relativity. Do you think you would be able to understand that if such a thing exists? I doubt it, nor would I. I'm no rocket scientist. You must build on your knowledge like any field. You learn the basics first, and then you learn the details.
And she's like, what is it that you are doing with not just the glass that you're using, or the mirror rather, that you're using to gaze and whatnot? You're doing something. The screaming and this. She just kind of looks flustered. I don't understand some of these. I'm not finding the connections I'm needing here, and I feel like there's something's not telling me.
She pulls the skillet off the stove and kind of like plates your omelet and pushes it over with a fork and sits down and looks at you, and she's like, well, what I know of the mirror is not as much as you might think. I could look at the mirror and consider where I wanted to look, and it would look there, and I would see things. It is how I saw you on the mountain when the fire happened. I was curious about the fire. I looked through the mirror, and I saw you. I believe it is attracted to anything supernatural in the area. It is really no doing of my own, to be quite frank. But now it is broken, and I can no longer really look through it as I once did. Sure, I can look through a shard of glass and it appears to work in a similar manner, but not exactly, as far as I can tell. And she kind of like shrugs and she says, as far as the rest, well, I don't know what to tell you, my dear. The screaming, I have nightmares from things I've seen in the mirror, and you would too if you've seen what I've seen.
And is it possible for me to roll investigation or possibly even persuasion to see if... Well, investigation to see if she's being on solid with me or if I still feel like there's something she's hiding.
How about, let's see here. What would be a good one? How about investigation and, well, it wouldn't be investigation, it would be empathy. So, let's do empathy wits.
Right,
now, you can use
4.
this neat macro, right? Click on your token. Click on any skill.
Holy shit. This wasn't here before.
Nope, I made it. You click on any skill, select your wits, select your empathy.
I think I have any... Yep, and I don't have any modifier.
And if you don't have any modifier, just hit submit until the end. See if it works. Alright. So you think you should have 4 dice? Does that look right to you?
I've got 2 in empathy and 2 in wits.
Yep. So you are I mean, it's hard to tell, right? You don't know her very well. You think what she's saying about the mirror has some truth to it, for sure. She's readily expressed that she's not told you everything because, quite simply, she doesn't believe you're ready for it. As far as anything about herself that she can do, which is what you're kind of alluding to, you get the feeling that maybe she's not being entirely truthful, but nothing outlandish as far as you can tell.
And she kind of looks Miranda in the eye after she's kind of had a chance to devour her share of the omelet, and she's like, there's a very small amount of people that are in charge of the protection of Glenwood Springs. You can't give me kid gloves. I mean, this is going to be hard for me, yes, but I can't be coddled in this. I need to know exactly what I'm up against. Even if it sounds outlandish and I shouldn't believe you, I can't discount anything anymore. There's something out there. You saw it yourself. That is... I was frozen in my tracks when I saw it lead off into its own tracks a different way. Whatever it is made me feel like a child. I'm a trained police officer. I was the top of my class. I can take down a man 3 times your and my size compared. And whatever it was, it made me just want to run and scream. I don't want to ever feel that again.
Oh, you will feel that again. There is no doubt about that, no matter what you know. When you know more, the more you realize how truly in danger you are. And she looks at you and she says, if you really wish to see what is out there, then you may attempt to look through the mirror, broken as it is. Perhaps you will see something, perhaps not. I have not been able to see much through there since it has been broken. If this is something you wish, then I will take you up to my room and you can look through the mirror.
And she's like, at least give my stomach a moment to settle. And Yeah, we'll do this.
Yeah, she continues to drink her coffee and, just essentially looks at you and she's like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do, my dear? I can't say what you'll see and what it'll do to you."
And she just nods and she's like, "Yeah, one second."
Yep.
Got dogs chasing cats in my room. All right, I'm back. She's just like, I've got to do this.
Okay, so essentially she finishes a few bites of her meal and takes you by the hand and leads you upstairs. You enter the room again, as it was before. You notice that the mirror is still broken, certainly, but the glass shards and the glass shards have been picked up off the floor and put near the base. Oddly enough, you also notice that the flowers are still on the floor, and from what you can tell from your memory, that they're not in the same place they were, and you would figure that roses that had fallen off a bush or whatever, right, would be, rose petals would be dried up at least somewhat since the day before. These all appear fresh, that sort of thing. She doesn't really mention it. She just kind of walks in, and you notice the mirror is like projecting light as if you were looking at something beyond it. And she says, "Now, my dear, what is it you are wanting to look at? Think long and hard before you stare into the mirror."
Out of character, that is a very weighted question, so I'm going to need to consider it for a second.
Sure. As you're considering it, she kind of walks around you and she says, "You may not see anything. Like I say, it's broken. I catch glimpses of things from time to time, but they are very unclear. One of the first things I will be asking you and your friends to do is help me repair it." And she says, "And there are other things, but for now, as I say, I'm hoping everyone focuses on their recovery for the next, well, the doctor has said it will take at least a month."
And she kind of considers it for a while, pacing back and forth, taking note of the flowers, like you said, and, it's definitely a question she wants to ask, but she feels like the mirror is a higher priority right now, and she kind of frustrated. She looks from Miranda to the mirror and she goes, "I need to know the truth, whatever it may be."
The truth of what? There are many truths. Well, what does Barbara want to know? Specifically, one thing. What's the one thing she wants to know more than anything?
How she fits into all of this. Why her? I mean, she's a cop and she inevitably got involved, but why here? Why now? Why has all of this happened specifically to her and the people that she's involved herself with?
Okay. Sure. And she says, what is it you want to know, Barb?" And do you tell her that? Or do you just look in the mirror?
I'll tell her it, but I'm gonna look in the mirror, regardless of her direction or not.
Okay. She says, "Oh, that is a question we all ask. It is a difficult answer and one that may surprise you. And so let me ask you one question about Barb. Is her father still alive?"
Yeah, her father and mother are still alive. I mean, they're typical suburban family.
Right. Gotcha. And he was a cop too, correct?
Yeah, everybody in her family every male has been a cop, and even a couple of females.
Okay, that's fine. Alright, so you look through the mirror, and at first you don't see anything besides this kind of light, like kind of agitating your eyes. It's kind of bright, and it kind of like, it's very hard to see, obviously, since it's missing a lot of its shards. But the light fades, and you can tell there's darkness back there, and maybe a dark room. It's hard to see. You think you see maybe a man sitting down, facing the opposite direction. You're paying attention. Why don't you roll awareness? Oh, let's see. Awareness, is that even a thing? So what would I want you to roll?
Awareness isn't a normal attribute.
No. Composure. Composure. Let's do intelligence and empathy this time.
Intelligence, empathy?
Mm-hmm.
Oop.
Just to cancel it.
Oh my god.
Oh wow, that's awful roll. Alright, so you don't recognize anything specifically on that person. You do notice that they might be tied up because you see their hands kind of pulled behind the chair unless they're wrapping their hands. You don't see the bind because there's a piece of the glass missing there. And you see walking what you think is another person walking next to that person, and there's like a pause in movement. You assume maybe they're talking to each other. You can't really see, like, where the face is of the other person is obscured because the glass is gone, so you can't really see who it is. And then all of a sudden the person standing puts a gun to the person in the chair's head and pulls the trigger, and you can just tell from the movement and the shock that like somebody just got their head blown off essentially. And you notice the gun more than anything. That gun is in your possession. That is your family's gun. And then the image like fades and the shine comes back to the mirror.
And she just kind of pinches the bridge around her nose, and she's just like, what the fuck? That makes no sense.
It makes no sense to you now, my dear, but perhaps another time.
I mean, that couldn't have happened right now. I have that gun on me right now. She pats her holster.
And she says, yes, the mirror can look into the past and sometimes the present and even the future.
And she just kind of grabs either side of her head and just kind of goes, this isn't enough.
I know the mirror needs to be fixed, and then many things can be answered. We are at a severe disadvantage without the mirror.
And she just paces again back and forth. And let's see, I want to try and roll something.
I want you to roll. I want you to do a humanity roll. 7 dice. For seeing that.
Okay.
You just need to do it
find
manually. I don't have. There's no macro for it. I need to make one.
So roll 7d10.
Yeah. Okay, you're fine. It didn't mess you up too bad.
It's more confusing than anything.
Yeah, right. And she's like, I'm sorry, but that's all I can tell you as far as what you've asked. The mirror will not respond to you again for some time. I would assume. The mirror has its mind of its own.
And she just kind of goes over the corner and punches the wall. Not too hard, leave a dent or anything, just out of pure frustration. She's like, I need more. This damn it. And she just keeps kind of repeating that process of just utter frustration. And I wish I knew what the right questions to ask her would be.
Like, what are you interested in? I mean,
well, I see, that's the hard part is asking the right questions, and it's not just easy to outright say I want to do this or that. It's got to be more, she doesn't know what she wants particularly.
Well, you will learn more soon enough. Very soon. I would suggest for now to go about your daily life as always until I and the rest are ready to move forward. One of the things that you will certainly need to do is help me fix this mirror. As you can see, it is a wealth of knowledge.
And she just kind of picks up like that loose board or something over there and just kind of tosses it in the corner. She's like, that's not fucking enough. It's not enough to just sit and wait and do nothing. They're injured. I've got to do something now. Whatever it may be, whatever small amount, they're going to want to start as soon as they can, but they're not going to be healed overnight. I mean, you don't recover from gunshots in a single day. I don't care who you are.
Oh, I have seen things recover from gunshots in seconds, let alone days, but no, they will not.
And I want to try and roll something to try and see if I can get her to I don't want to intimidate her, and I don't want to do something negative.
Well, what's your end goal? Is it to get that merit? Because I don't know that that's going to happen.
Not necessarily that merit, but she wants to... The way how I want to play this character is different from everybody else a little bit. I mean, everybody's got their own particular skills, and I think her being the more academic sort and the more prepared sort is what I'm trying to get at. Oh God. Yes, I'd like to get that merit, but no, if it's not possible, I'm not going to try and draw water from that well, you know.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, right now, not gonna happen. He's like, hey, there's only limited things I can tell you at this point or ask you to do without the knowledge you need.
And she's like, she looks at those books that I assumed are still piled over there in the corner that were there last time.
Yeah, they're not piled there. They're over there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she just kind of points to that, and she's like, I imagine that's got some of the answers, even if they're hidden.
Well, my dear, can you read Sanskrit? Or Arabic?
No. That's where you can help me, at least. We've got time. We're waiting. Why not?
Well, I've not taught anyone a language before, but I suppose I could go through it with you. Translate it for you, maybe would be the easiest.
And I think, out of character, maybe bumping up my occult knowledge in respect to that, because I would be actively investigating this particular matter.
That would be fine.
And maybe I can ask a more appropriate question as to relation to that merit later, once she has more answers to that.
Yeah, she'll assist you with reading the books or whatever, for however long that would be. Yes, of course, I can help you. And she walks over to the books and finds one and brings it back over, and she's like, this one's actually in French, if you know French, but if not, I can assist you. It is an old dialect, almost Old English, but not quite. Transcribed from several scrolls many, many, many years ago. And she says, this pertains to some things that are happening now, I suspect, with, well, what you told me occurred. The mother of fetches.
And she nods and she's like, very well. She's like, I'll need two things. And she's like, first, more coffee. Second, some clothes to change into.
Of course, I can give you something of mine that looks like we're similar sized. And she gives a faint smile and she's like, you can read here if you wish, or come downstairs. Oh, she says, Lance returned last night after you had all passed out.
And she's like, him. I still know how to feel about him. I mean, all of this certainly makes things a lot more complicated, but I'm in a very difficult position.
Oh, my dear, you have no idea what sort of position you're in. But I believe this Lance is the true Lance and not a fetch, at the very least.
And Barb kind of has an idea. She's like, how you were able to see that creature. You used the glass. If I carried a tiny piece with me, could I replicate that effect, or is that a sometimes.
Not with your current level of practice, my dear. Only very, very strong supernatural things will trigger it, like the book. That book is very powerful. And she kind of frowns and she says, "If I were you, I would put it in hiding."
And she kind of nods, but she's like, I don't know anywhere around here that would be safe. Put it in the station, and, well, I mean, an old lady who wears a muumuu guards that station while we're gone.
Yes, but
It's not like
sometimes the best hiding place is in the open. And you hear there's a kind of a knock at the door, and it's kind of fortuitous, but there's a knock at the door, and you see Jack kind of poke his head in. "Oh, Barb, there you are!" And you notice he's got like this splint on his arm. Not a splint, but a sling. He's like, yeah, just wondering. I was going to head in. Maybe in a little while, at least. Overheard what you were talking about at the book. I kind of agree with the Miranda. Maybe I can take it into the station and keep it in lockup somewhere. Only you and I can get to it.
And she's like, an idea kind of crop ups in her head, and she's like, actually, something Miranda said might have given me an idea.
Yeah, what's that?
And she kind of gets a slight smile. Where are you least gonna expect to find something like this? And then she kind of smiles again. She's like, the library. They have hundreds of books downstairs that are not being used, besides the ones that are upstairs being used. It'd blend in perfectly.
They both kind of nod, and Sheriff says, "Well, yeah, I know the librarian. I could take it there."
Just keep it between the three of us for now.
And he like frowns. He's like, "Oh, if that book comes up hidden, well, Ian's got it, doesn't he? Don't think he's gonna let it get away without talking about it."
She frowns, and she just kind of is like, yes, the pig does have it at the moment, but I think even he will understand that we've got to hide it, and putting it in the police station seems a little obvious to me, considering that they know who we are now.
Sure, that makes sense. We'll talk it over when everybody gets up. He kind of... Yeah, sorry to intrude. I just heard voices up here and everybody else is still asleep except that weird doctor fella.
Weird doctor? What's that reference to?
There's a doctor in the house, apparently. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and Barbara's kind of looks at Miranda, and she's like, I don't remember a doctor. Did that happen while I was asleep?
You don't need a doctor, dear. He's been treating everyone in their sleep mostly. Most of them had IVs and bandages and whatnot. His name's Dr. Elixir.
If I needed him. And she just kind of looks at her flatly, and she's like, Dr. Elixir?
Yes, I told you I would have elixirs for you tomorrow. That's what he calls himself.
And she just kind of shakes her head and mumbles something about cartoons and being stuck in one.
He says, anyway, my dear, hopefully everyone will be waking up here soon. We'll start translating on this after we all have a good discussion. Figure out our next plan.
She just nods and she's like, all right, I guess the coffee awaits.
She nods. All right, my dear. Let's go back downstairs. You might need another espresso.
She nods.
All right, you head back downstairs, and you sit there and generally have some sort of small chat, small talk before everyone wakes up. You notice a skinny, weird kind of looking guy walking around with a stethoscope. For now, he looks like this. Looks like that. That's Dr. Elixir. He's just been walking around tending to people. He doesn't really say much to anyone.
Barb keeps her distance from him. He looks like a serial rapist.
So that's it, unless you have something else for the moment.
No, I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be able to accomplish much, but I accomplished a little bit at least.
Okay. So, yeah, you can go ahead and use some of your XP to bump your occult, if that's what you're looking to do currently. So,
yeah.
All right.